In the quiet town of Meadowridge, where the river curved gently through fields of gold and green, there stood an old wooden bridge. It was weathered by years of sun and rain, its planks creaking under the footsteps of anyone brave enough to cross. The townspeople often said the bridge was more trouble than it was worth, too fragile to carry trucks, too narrow for anything more than a bicycle. But for many, it was still a vital link between two halves of the town. Among those who used it daily was an elderly man named Walter Hughes. Walter lived on the west side of the river, in a modest home he had built with his late wife 50 years ago. He was known for his quiet nature, his slow but steady walks with a cane, and his deep love for the bridge. To others, it was just an old crossing. To Walter, it was a part of his life story. He and his wife, Helen, had first met on that bridge during a summer fair. They had walked across it every evening, hand in hand, talking about dreams that would one day become their life together. Now, Walter walked alone. The bridge, though fragile, was his way of feeling close to her. He crossed it every morning to buy bread from the bakery on the east side and every evening to feed the ducks by the riverbank. But lately, cracks had begun to show, not just in the bridge, but in Walter's strength. The town council had warned residents not to use it until repairs were made. For most, that meant finding another route. For Walter, it meant losing the last daily connection he had to Helen. One afternoon, as Walter stood at the edge of the bridge, staring at the sign that read, "Closed for safety," a young woman named Emma noticed him. She was new to Meadowridge, a volunteer engineer working with a community organization that helped small towns restore old structures. Emma had come to survey the bridge after hearing locals complain that no one cared enough to fix it. She watched Walter's trembling hand brush against the weathered rail, and something in his eyes made her pause. "You shouldn't go out there, sir," she said gently. Walter turned, his gaze calm but sad. "I know. But it's hard to stay away from something that's been part of you for so long." Emma tilted her head. "You have memories here, don't you?" He nodded. "My wife and I met here. We used to call it our bridge. It's funny, isn't it? You spend a lifetime building something together, and then one day, time just takes it apart." Emma smiled softly. "Maybe it just needs someone to build it back again." He chuckled faintly. "You sound like you've done that before." "Maybe not with wood and nails," she said, "but with people. Sometimes that's the harder kind of building." That conversation stayed with her long after Walter had gone home. She returned to her office, looked through the town's files, and realized that no official plans had been made to restore the bridge. The council had deemed it too costly for such limited use. Emma disagreed. She saw more than wood and expense, she saw a piece of the town's heart quietly fading away. The next morning, she decided to do something about it. She met with the mayor, a kind but overworked man named Mr. Bennett, and presented her idea. "What if we make it a community project?" she suggested. "We can raise funds locally, bring volunteers together. It's not just about restoring a bridge, it's about rebuilding connection." Mr. Bennett sighed. "Emma, people are tired. Times are tough. It's hard to ask them to care about an old bridge." Emma leaned forward. "Then maybe we remind them why they should. That bridge has carried more than footsteps. It's carried stories." He studied her for a moment before nodding slowly. "All right. You have my support. But you'll need the town to believe in it too." So she started small. She printed flyers titled, "A Bridge Built from Compassion," and pinned them around the town, in the cafe, the post office, the library. She shared stories of people who once crossed it, children walking to school, couples taking evening strolls, friends meeting halfway between their homes. She even spoke to Walter, asking him if he would share his memories at the first community meeting. At first, only a handful showed up. But when Walter began to speak, his voice quivering yet sincere, the room fell silent. "I know it's just a bridge," he said, his eyes glistening, "but for me, it's where I found love. It's where I said goodbye. And it's where I still go to feel that love again. Maybe fixing it won't bring my Helen back, but maybe it can remind us all of what we've lost, and what we can still rebuild together." By the end of the night, people were signing up to help. The local carpenter offered his tools. The high school art club offered to paint murals. The bakery owner promised to bring pastries for every workday. Even the town's gruff mechanic, who rarely spoke to anyone, said he'd help reinforce the old beams. Emma couldn't believe the response. What had started as a quiet idea had become a movement, not driven by money or politics, but by something deeper, compassion. Over the following weeks, the riverside buzzed with life. Children gathered to collect nails, teens sanded planks, and retirees shared stories as they painted railings. Walter came every day, sitting in his old folding chair, watching as the bridge slowly regained its shape. One afternoon, Emma noticed him standing closer to the edge than usual. "You okay, Walter?" she asked. He nodded, smiling. "I just wanted to see it from here. It's starting to look like it used to. You've given me something I didn't think I'd find again." "What's that?" "Hope," he said simply. The bridge's reconstruction took nearly a month. When the final plank was laid and the paint dried, the whole town gathered for its reopening. Emma had planned a small ceremony, just a few words and a ribbon cutting, but it turned into something far more beautiful. Children released paper boats into the river, each carrying handwritten messages of gratitude. Couples who had once walked across the bridge returned hand in hand, some even bringing their grandchildren. Walter stood at the front with Emma. The mayor handed him a pair of scissors. "Mr. Hughes, I think it's only fitting you do the honors." Walter's hands trembled as he cut the ribbon, the crowd breaking into applause. As he stepped onto the bridge, a tear slipped down his cheek. "She would have loved this," he whispered. Emma smiled. "I think she's here, in every plank and every smile." They walked across together, and for a moment, it felt as though time itself had paused. The river shimmered below, the air filled with laughter and the scent of fresh wood. What had once been a forgotten crossing was now a living symbol, proof that compassion could rebuild what time had broken. Over the following months, the bridge became more than just a path. It became a meeting place, a space for festivals, concerts, and quiet reflection. Local artists painted scenes of kindness along its sides, a child sharing an umbrella, a nurse holding an elderly hand, two strangers helping each other across a stormy night. Every stroke of paint seemed to tell the same story, that compassion, when shared, could connect hearts just as firmly as nails connected wood. Walter's health began to fade that winter, but he never missed his daily walk to the bridge. Emma often joined him, sometimes in silence, sometimes talking about everything from music to memories. One snowy morning, she found a letter waiting on her desk at the community center. The handwriting was shaky but unmistakable. It was from Walter. It read, "Dear Emma, if you're reading this, I may not be around much longer. But I wanted to thank you. You didn't just fix a bridge, you reminded me what it means to be part of something bigger than myself. You gave this town back its heart. And for me, you gave Helen and me one last place to meet. When you walk across that bridge, look for the third plank from the east side. Under it, you'll find a small engraving, our initials, carved there 50 years ago. I hope you'll keep it safe, just as you've kept our memories alive. With gratitude. Walter." Emma cried softly as she read the letter. That evening, she went to the bridge with a lantern, brushing snow off the planks until she found the carving, W+H. She traced her fingers over the letters, then whispered, "It's safe, Walter. I promise." When spring came, the town held a memorial service for Walter on the bridge. People brought flowers, photos, and candles. Emma spoke briefly, her voice steady though her heart ached. "Walter taught us that compassion doesn't just mend what's broken, it builds something stronger. This bridge stands not just because we cared, but because we cared together." As the sun set, its golden light danced on the water, and the bridge seemed to glow, as if it carried within it all the love and kindness that had gone into rebuilding it. From that day on, the townspeople began calling it the Bridge of Compassion. Years later, when travelers visited Meadowridge, they often paused at the bridge, reading the small plaque that told its story. Beneath the title "A Bridge Built from Compassion," it read, "Once, a town was divided by a broken bridge. But through the kindness of many hearts, it was rebuilt, stronger, brighter, and full of love. May it forever remind us that the truest connections are the ones we build with compassion." And every evening, as the river caught the light of the setting sun, the bridge shimmered, a quiet promise between past and present, between strangers and friends, between loss and love. Because in Meadowridge, compassion had built more than a bridge. It had built a bond that time could never break.